if you're trying to get an idea of exactly where we're going to be at in a month, in 2 months when it comes to coronavirus, you need to be really careful who you listen to. Because if you just listen to what Trump and his team is saying publicly, you might think it's not going to be that bad. I mean, you have things like Trump with a new ad just out today touting the American comeback. Like, we're on the rebound, everybody. What are you so worried about? But if you have stayed tuned with the breaking news of this morning, you find out that internally, not necessarily looking so good. As President Trump presses for states to reopen their economies, his administration is privately projecting a steady rise in the number of cases and deaths from coronavirus over the next several weeks, reaching about 3,000 daily deaths on June 1st. According to an internal document obtained by the New York Times, that is nearly double the current average deaths per day. So, Francesca, these are CDC documents that have just been acquired by the New York Times and spread. So he is still out there and was at the town hall saying they need to reopen. We got to get this thing back. Internally, based on current models, even models that don't have all of the states reopening, they're expecting a massive increase in cases and deaths over the next month or two.
Yeah, I mean, and this is where I think, it makes his bragging about the numbers even worse. But to find a silver lining of all of this, all you have to do is do the opposite of what Trump tells you to do. Like, the reason that the numbers have been less than 1 million at this point, which who knows with a second round or a second wave. But the reason that they've been lower than some of the initial, predictions is because of governors, is because Donald Trump explicitly said, don't look to me. I'm not taking it seriously. I'm not giving you help. I'm not helping you acquire respirators, masks, etc. Like, I will not mobilize the Defense Production Act like I should. So you're on your own. And the reason that the numbers have been tragically yet still lower than what we thought they were going to be is not because of his actions. So, like, this is the blueprint is whatever he says, just don't listen to what do the opposite.
Yeah, 100%. And I want to expand a little bit on the numbers. So these documents came up, by the way, just as we were doing our final prep for the show. But even at first glance, it is rough. So these projections, based on modeling by the CDC, forecast about 200,000 new cases each day by the end of the month. That's up from 25,000 cases now. They're expecting close to 10 times as many people to be infected every day as are being affected right now. And again, that's before we reopen everything, which they are working as if they're working on anything right now, it's to force states to reopen. And they're expecting thousands of additional deaths. Like, I understand that Trump he's picked this path. He thinks it's the best path for either the stock market in the short term or Republican electoral chances in the medium term. But all of the actual experts inside of his administration are saying that this is going to cost the lives, not of thousands of people, but additional thousands of people every single day going forward. And that's by June. That's not, and then June 2nd, we're good. That will then extend. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of additional lives. I mean, 3,000 per day, just for 1 month. Let's say that we were done after that. That's 90,000 additional people, more than the total death toll that we've had to this point. And the only work that they've done, as I said, is reopen the states and convince people that no amount of deaths actually matters, that you should not be horrified by this. It's something liberty, something freedom. This is what needs to be done.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if at this point he goes forward and gives aid only to the counties that voted for him. That's possible. Mm-hmm. Why not? Everything else has been so politicized. I'm surprised that these numbers even leaked out somehow about the reality of everything. I guess for me, I also feel like we're seeing a vacuum of leadership when it comes to healthcare, and especially if insurance companies believe that they are the good guys, that they are helping Americans get coverage, which we know they're not. But you would expect them to maybe speak up a little bit, maybe honor all of the nurses and doctors who are working tirelessly, who they, by the way, when this is not going on, or they're going to be putting through the bureaucratic ringer, not only of the patients, but of the hospitals and the doctors when it comes to billing for all of this, right? So like you've got two traumas here. You've got one of the traumas is these EMT, the nurses, the ICU workers who have to see, dozens of deaths and cardiac arrests a day. And then you have the trauma of how you're going to pay for all of this. I mean, how are you going to pay for a pandemic in a privatized healthcare system? So again, I'm sort of like, who's lifting up these doctors and these nurses, right? It's not the insurance companies. It's not the president. I think we know whose side they're on.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I'm honestly looking every day for just anyone who's going to tell the truth. That Birx sometimes does it. Fauci's generally pretty good. The people in media who seem to be taking it I don't know if you saw, but John Oliver had he did his whole episode on testing, the issues up until today, and then future issues too. Nice. And it looks like, I don't know for sure that it's connected, but he did a thing about how unreliable the antibody tests are. And this morning, the FDA announced that they're going to be requiring additional evidence for the efficacy of antibody tests for them to get. Maybe it's not connected, but I'm honestly happy for anyone to be doing the right thing. I feel overall, I know you're not supposed to say this. Everybody wants, like, the hosts that they follow to just always claim that they were always right and always successful and everything's going to be great. But it just feels every day like, I sort of hoped that if we just put pressure on them, if we make sure that people have the factual information that they need, that, like, they're not gonna just let everyone die. And yet, no, it kind of looks like that. And the people on Fox News who have been, they were minimizing it to begin with, just covering Trump's as pushing hydroxychloroquine, telling people the lockdowns aren't necessary, all of that, like, they're getting record viewership. Greg Gutfeld, his show is now getting more views than, like, Stephen Colbert and stuff like that.
No.
Yeah. No. Everybody loves the misinformation. And, like...
Sorry, I can't hear Greg Gutfeld too early in the morning.
Exactly.
It's just like,
You know what, I'm probably not even supposed to say this. I'm just going to briefly say, I won't go into too much detail, but... So I write op-eds. My op-eds generally tend to be critical of people and organizations. My last one on The Hill was very critical of Joe Biden. My op-ed this weekend didn't run because it wasn't accepted. I've never had an op-ed not be accepted before. I didn't get any reason for it, but I will say it was incredibly critical of Fox News and the misinformation that they've been spreading. And this one, it's the first one ever to not be accepted. They're making so much money spreading misinformation. They
on
don't
the Hill?
need people. Yeah, it's not going to be running. I mean, we're going to spread it, but it's not accepted for publication. I don't know why. No reason was given. So all I did, by the way, it was littered with citations to particular misinformation that had been spread. But what are you going to do?
I mean,
we did our best.
Yeah. John, The Hill, I love your op-eds, but The Hill is also run by a friend of Rudolph Giuliani's, and he's a big old right-winger.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. There might be a connection.
I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to submit it other places. I will say that. And I'm very thankful for the ones that they have run. As I said, they've run all of the others.